¿Cómo estás, bitches? It's me, Guapo Jim, and I'm here with a full season review of Creature Commandos. When it was announced that the DCEU was being canceled and being replaced with the DCU, and this was the first project, I'm not gonna lie, it sounded like a real curveball. But considering that it's James Gunn and he's made his whole career off of throwing curveballs, I had to give it a watch and break down a few of my thoughts. Predicated on the fact that this is the first show and overall first real project in the DCU, I'm not gonna lie, there was a lot riding on this cartoon, more than any other cartoon at least. The more that we heard about it, things did sound pretty weird, but I'm not gonna lie, I, like most other people, I kind of held my tacit optimism in check until we had the final product and we could kind of judge it like that. The show, it did bring with it the typical highs associated with James Gunn work, but with that being said, a lot of the typical lows, they did follow as well. Those of you who haven't heard of this show or haven't watched it or anything like that, the long and short end of it is we basically follow a team of special military black ops people as they do special military black ops missions. Again, sounds pretty cut and dry, right? The catch, everybody on this team is either a monstrosity created by science or some type of dark magic. B, on top of that, they all happen to be super criminals. So everybody on this team was quite literally recruited from a super prison. And on top of all of that, C, the most important detail, all of these people have bombs implanted into their heads. So as the colloquialism goes, if these guys do decide to fuck around, they will find out. All of those things put together, it really does make things pretty interesting for the team. With an assorted cast of characters, the team travels to a country in the Baltic region to help with a potentially dicey international conflict. As the team gets deeper into the mission, personal vendettas, as well as a quite literal burgeoning world war, I'm not gonna lie, shit does begin to get real for these guys. Each episode, it gives the audience a backstory about each character while the story itself does progress and move forward. So I mean, as with James Gunn stories, you're gonna get a lot of that vulgar hilarity, the crude violence, that type of humor, but you're also gonna get a lot of those touching, heartfelt moments. Like they're quite literally interspersed throughout this whole season, some of them beginning in the opening sequence of the first episode. I will say now, I'm gonna start to go in with spoilers a little bit, so if you don't wanna hear that shit, like, I'd probably fast forward this or maybe just watch something else. In terms of this show, Gunn, I'm not gonna lie, my guy, he brings it, man. Like, everything that you both love and you hate about him as a filmmaker, it's on full display in this show. If you had told me 10 years ago that the director of the Guardians of the Galaxy movie, because it wasn't even a trilogy then, but the director of that movie, he would be the guy running things at DC Studios, I'm not gonna lie, I would probably ask you what type of drugs you're smoking on, and then I would ask maybe about lottery numbers or something. Not in that order though. With that said, the best way that I can describe James Gunn and any of his superhero movies, just kind of think of it like this. James Gunn to superhero movies is what Seth MacFarlane is to adult animated sitcoms. By that, I mean that his projects, they're always eye-raising, they know how to catch people's attention, they're heartfelt, and they're pretty enjoyable overall. But once you figure out his formula, they do become pretty formulaic and paint by numbers. One thing that I will say about James Gunn, my guy does not play when it comes to the cameos and to the Easter eggs, all that stuff. Like, on a personal level, again, I don't know him, like he lives in California or some shit. But one thing that at least I can tell, you can tell that he grew up reading comic books, A, and B, he truly loves and appreciates comic book movies. Like, even if you don't love him, you can see a bunch of the thought and the just overall intentionality that he went to just in the way that he structures his plot points, or he builds his settings, all that type of shit, you know? I keep saying him, like this guy didn't have like a whole writing team behind him. Like I doubt he was even like the showrunner for this show or some shit, you know? But again, that's neither here nor there. The use of Cersei as a major villain, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't love that. Like I wasn't really a big fan of that. Using Clayface, it excited me a bit more, but again, I still wasn't the biggest fan of it. In terms of Gunn's prior work, I will give him his kudos. Again, I'll give him his credit. When he used Starro in the Suicide Squad movie, I love that. I thought that was really cool. Like Starro never really gets loved like that, so to use him as a major villain, I thought that was a cool touch. And I wanted something like that in this show, and I just felt that we didn't get it. Like the threat in this show, it never felt serious. Even when the princess did kind of have her heel turn and she jukes up Nina, it felt like, you know, it felt meh, you know? Ironically enough, in terms of backstories, like to the ones that they gave the characters, I felt like Nina and Weasel, their backstories were probably the most compelling. Again, man, if you were telling me back then that they would make a Creature Commandos TV show and that Weasel, of all characters, would have the most compelling backstory, I would be mentally booking an intervention for you while pressing you again about lottery tickets and just OnlyFans and how that's gonna progress, you know, shit. The casting choices in this show, they were really good, I'm not gonna lie. In terms of comic book casting, Viola Davis as Amanda Waller, it's one of the best ones, like chef's kiss every time. And I mean, even in animation, my girl kills it. Frank Grillo, the rest of the cast, they really did round out the show well. The animation, it looks pretty cool. And the music was, again, James Gunn loves to use his licensed music, and it was decent too in this show. When I did hear the theme song for the first time, it's kind of funny, but I did think about Go-Go Bordello. So when they played them later on, and especially when they started bumping Wanderlust King, I'm telling you, niggas went hype, bro. Yo, you guys don't know I'm on that polka folk shit. Yo, I stay ready, bro. Hey, what's Guan and Slime? If you're watching this right now, I'm gonna assume you're a fan of DC animated projects. If that's the case, Batman Beyond: Return of the Joker would be your shit. I actually made a video about that movie and I've left a link in the description down below. Do yourself and your boy a favor and check it out. You will not be disappointed. I do also want to add, this is a small channel, and if you do like this video and you want to support Guapo Gym Ministries, I'm going to need you to like, subscribe, comment, share, the whole deal, all that YouTube algorithm shit. All support is super appreciated and y'all are the real MVPs. Back to the video. If you love James Gunn for his highs, then you probably dislike him for his lows. And this show, I'm not gonna lie, you kind of feel his lows. Again, you've got the over-reliance on the licensed music, the crass humor, like the couple times they're funny and then it never stops. Even just the unnecessary sex scenes too. It's like, why, bro? Like, when it came to the ending of this season, even that, it just felt so anticlimactic. Like, I know that the show got renewed and maybe things will kind of happen next season that change how I feel, but there's a big part of me that doesn't really care about these characters anymore. If I'm being honest, while the show was cool and fun, it was also really unnecessary. Like, I'll be the first person to admit it, I don't really hang around comic book spots the way that I used to, but even when I was there, I never once in all of my life heard people clamoring about how we needed a Creature Commandos TV show. I would have almost rather that he did another Suicide Squad show, but that kind of brings me back to my original point of how James Gunn has a formula and he just follows it over and over. Low key, and again, it kind of hurts to say this, but I kind of felt the show was, I'm not gonna go so far as to say it was meh, but it wasn't like crazy. Like, I'm not gonna watch this show again. Again, just, it's like, there are thousands of compelling DC characters that this guy could have made a sick cartoon about, and he decided to make a cartoon about Frankenstein. It's like, no, my bad. Lady Frankenstein. It's like, come on, bro. Like, you're cool and you're eclectic, I get it, but it's like, really, nigga? Like, we didn't need this, man. From a production standpoint, this show is pretty cool and unique in the sense that with the whole DC Studios thing and it trying to be all interconnected and shit, everybody who's actually in this cartoon, all of those characters, when they're portrayed in live action, those same actors will be portraying them in live action. Again, while I think that the idea of this is cool in theory, most, if not all of the people involved in this, again, a lot of them are middle-aged, and even if they're not middle-aged, they're not necessarily known for being action stars. Frank Grillo aside, but this guy is still well in his 50s. We just seem to forget that because he's eating trenbolone sandwiches all the time. If it was me and I was the one who had the power of DC Studios to pick who we'd make something about, I definitely would have picked somebody else. I get not using an A-list character, but again, you could have done like Booster Gold, Blue Beetle, the Creeper. Like, there's so many people that you could have made a really cool television show about. Starting the era off with this show, while it was interesting, it didn't get my nipples hard, if you catch my drift. None of this really seemed to matter to critics though, because they've all been pretty positive in their reviews about this, and I've already said that this show has been greenlit for a second season. If you do want to check it out and see for yourself what I'm talking about, you can find it today streaming on Mac. Overall, Creature Commandos, it's not really anything to write home about, but it's at least a serviceable cartoon. If you know what you're getting yourself into, you'll have fun watching it, but if you're expecting a wicked cartoon with replay value, you'll be best served watching something else. Regardless, the streets have been talking to me about this show, and I just wanted to let you guys know what I thought, and I just wanted to give you guys the Guapo review. Thank you if you've made it this far. If you're a fan of this type of content, I'll need you to like, subscribe, and comment down below on what shows you guys are watching. Till the next time we meet, stay safe. Later days.